Welcome back. Welcome back. Hope it hadn't been too long since you guys have seen me. Been a little busy. I still work full time as a police officer, but I want to welcome you guys back for episode three, and I'm gonna get into the title here in a minute. Um, First of all, welcome you guys back, and how I'm gonna try to get into more content out. Like I was saying, I still work full time, so I try to do the stuff on my days off to record on a particular day, kind of edit the stuff, and then post it on various sites. So just bear with me. Still trying to get stuff out. Also, what I'm trying to do is, you see here, I'm in my office. What I'm trying to do is get it set up more like a studio type environment. So I'm not going to say by the next time I do the next episode it'll be up and going. But I'm hopefully going to try to get that going that way so I can be a little bit more comfortable too, other than just in this chair. So I'm trying to get that going as well, as far as the set up my little office here more to like a little studio type thing. So I'm trying to get that going. Now, about this episode. I don't want to say it's different, but I had a lot of followers kind of contact me about this particular episode, and that's what I'm kind of doing today. And I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of what took me a little time in trying to prepare this for this particular podcast setting. So I was hit up with a lot of questions about certain things as far as dealing with policing and stuff like that. And the biggest thing that came out, or what the followers want to know about, is police brutality. That has been a hot topic over the years. It's kind of touchy, certain areas dealing with police brutality, but I'm here to tackle it. That's my motto on my podcast: pull up, park, and let's talk. So that's what we're going to do today. So it's going to be about police brutality. I'm going to kind of touch different areas, talk about a couple cases happened over the years and stuff like that. And then maybe stuff to kind of, I don't want to say to prevent it, but just kind of give you ideas of thinking on from both sides, from a law enforcement perspective and also a civilian perspective. So I don't want you guys to think that I'm one-sided. One thing I have learned in this police business, especially when I worked homicide, you got to be neutral. You got to come in with your eyes open. Can't have any blinders on, because something may look one way, and as you progress in the investigation, it can be something totally different. And that literally happened the other day at work. I can't get into the details of the case, but that literally happened the other day at work. And as I began to assess the scene, what was initially said was not what happened. So I know it's kind of teasing a little bit, but I can't get into the details of the particular case because it actually just happened with the department I'm working with. Now, like I said, this episode is, if you want to call it fan-based, but follower-based type topic. A lot of questions came up about this. Friends contacted me, family contacted me, said, hey, can you kind of do something along this lines? And I said, okay, I'll deal with that. So today's episode is dealing with police brutality. Now, the first thing we got to do, and this is just me personally, in anything that you do or that you're studying, that you're going to talk about, you got to define it. You got to define it, and you got to kind of know what you're talking about, this, that, and the other. But you got to define. You just can't go off of what somebody else is saying. You got to define it, and it may not be exactly what you think it is. Now, I'm not talking about police brutality. That's kind of self-evident. But just anything that you kind of dive into, that's just how I start. I start at the basic concept of it, is defining what a particular thing is. And that's kind of what I'm going to do with police brutality. What actually is police brutality? Brutality is the use of excessive or unnecessary force by law enforcement. Okay, so that's by law enforcement, excessive or unnecessary. So when it's excessive, it's too much, because as police officers, law enforcement, we're going to have to use some type of force in some situations. The way I was trained, when the person stops resisting, the force stops. If it's a deadly deadly force encounter, then when the threat stops, then the deadly force stops. So what is the excessive or unnecessary force by law enforcement? The main thing that's kind of going on now is the shootings. So that's the first one, unjustified shootings. Keyword being unjustified. Now, there are some shootings that are justifiable. So officers do have to defend themselves. They have to defend fellow officers, and they also have to defend the public if something happens where there's a deadly force situation, somebody's trying to harm someone else. Guess what? We're going to try to do everything in our power to save that person where the threat is going to. Now, another part of police brutality is severe beatings or use of tasers. So when it says severe beatings, like I said, this is a dictionary defined topic or definition that I got. Severe beatings or use of misuse of tasers. Now, tasers, if you don't know about tasers, when it's first deployed, you're going to get, we call it a 5-second ride. So it's the electro, it's going to go for about 5 seconds and then it'll stop. Now, if that person continues to do something or to continue to assault the officer or go at the officer again, or they don't comply, we can administer a second 5-second burst. Okay, so that's another way of police brutality. Now, in saying that, you also have to realize that police departments, what we have, what's called a use of force continuum. And what that basically means is when a person is resisting an officer, it can be balling up the fist from throwing punches, pushing, or when you're trying to handcuff them, they just kind of tense up. So in most departments have what we call force continuums. And best way I can describe it is it's like a stair step type thing. So if the suspect is here, then we are allowed to be here on a force continuum. So basically we can be one step ahead of the suspect. And I'm going to call them suspects just for sake of argument. The suspect is here, then we are allowed to be here, depending on what the individual is doing. Now, in the police brutality, there are a lot of things that can happen, not only to the person that's doing it, that's receiving the brutality aspect of it, and then the officer that's initiating or giving the brutality part of it. That's why I said, what are the key issues or impact of police brutality? Now, the impacts of police brutality is for law enforcement is loss of public trust. I can go to any case, this, that, and the other. You've seen the marches, you've seen the looting, the damaging of property and things like that nature. It's the loss of public trust. That's going to be the main thing, because people are going to start thinking, if this happened to this person, then it can also happen to me. Another thing is a psychological and physical harm to victims. So basically, someone that survives that, whatever the brutality is, they're going to have some psychological issues. And if there's physical harm, whether it be temporary, meaning there's a healing process, and then some people may have a permanent disability because of the brutality that was done. And like I just said a few minutes ago, the civil unrest and protest. That's one of the biggest things that's happened over the past couple of years. And I have to give a personal thing here. When all that stuff was going on, as far as throughout the country, I was still with Dallas PD. And one thing that just kind of, I don't say caught me off guard, but back then there was really nothing too much going on in Dallas. And what I mean by that, nothing that was hitting national news. And but the protest came to Dallas. And that's not a problem. People have the right to, to protest and things of that nature, but nothing came to Dallas. And I think you guys recall that's when July 7th happened, when we lost all the officers downtown. And actually, two of those guys that were murdered in that deal were two of my friends. One of them I worked closely with when we worked business robberies. That was Officer Aaron, and Z Zapata. When I worked homicide, he would come and say, "Hey, Park, you got anybody for me to go look for?" He'd go look for my bad guys for me. So I didn't agree with what was going on here in Dallas as far as the protest, because I believe our department was doing a pretty good job of things like that, doing as far as police brutality, not initiating a lot. Now, on the flip side, because I have to tell you both sides, I believe it was after I retired. I can't remember if it was toward the end of my career or I had already retired. But we had a thing that happened on Lamar, what was called Lamar Avenue at that time. It's now called Botham John Avenue, I do believe. So then that happened. So, like I said, I got to give both sides of the story. So, um, so that's when the July 7th deal happened. There wasn't a whole lot going on here in Dallas as far as officers doing stuff that was going on around the country. And then that particular incident happened kind of after the fact. Now, there's also legal and financial consequences for departments and municipalities. And I'm going to throw officers in there as well, because officers can be sued by individuals if they so feel the need to do so. And the reason they're going to go, and this is just my personal opinion, the reason they're going to go after the departments, meaning the police departments and the municipalities, meaning that particular city, the officers are going to be named in a lawsuit as well. But guess what? They're going to go for the deep pockets. They're going to go for the deep pockets. So that's another impact that it has when we're dealing with police brutality. So defining police brutality, the key issues and the impact of it. So we just talked about the impact of police brutality, what can happen within the city. It's going to give the city a bad eye, a black eye, I should say. And then the officer, not only the officer, but also the person involved. That's the key thing. The person involved, and there's no winners in this thing. So the person involved as well. And so then now, so we know that the impact of it. What are or what have been the accountability measures that have happened over the years? Well, body cameras. Body cameras have been probably every department now that has been issued body cameras. I know when I was still on with Dallas, I was in investigative bureau at the time. That's when they kind of start coming out where everybody had to have it. And now, anytime you go to the department and you employ with them, a body camera now is just it's normal issue as far as equipment. And then also surveillance cameras. Now, surveillance cameras can be anything from citizens having cameras on their homes, the Ring doorbells, or cameras throughout your respective city. So that's one way to curtail it. And then also these great things, cell phones. When anything happens, people are going to pull those things out. They're going to pull those cell phones out. And that's okay. It's called accountability. And believe it or not, the body cams, cameras, whatever you want to call it, whatever's catching police brutality or false reporting of police brutality, that's also captured. So it works for both parties. It works for the officer and it works for the civilian. So if the officer is telling an untruth or the civilian is telling an untruth, guess what? They're going to pull those body cameras. Also, what some cities have done is what you call civilian oversight boards. So basically, they select, so many few people, however many do it, and then when stuff comes up, and whatever case may be, they may go to internal affairs, get a case, or however that board gets them, and they'll look at them, a civilian oversight. Now, one thing with that, and this is just my personal opinion, one thing with the civilian oversight board, what do you have? You have civilians who've never been in law enforcement, never been through the training, critiquing law enforcement activities or something that happened. So that can be a problem, per se. What else has happened for accountability measures? Policy reforms. There have been policy reforms through many departments. I've only worked for two, actually three. I'm sorry, three. And so the policies have changed towards the use of force and the brutality aspect of it. And so there's more accountability. I can guarantee you that there's more accountability. And then also what you have to do is you have to, as an individual, you have to define what is police brutality to you. What does police brutality mean to you? Is it something, whenever you look at something, it's like, okay, that's excessive force. And it's happened before. And like I said, I don't want to say correct people, but I'll let them know. They may say, hey, well, that's excessive force and this, that, and the other. And I just politely tell them, well, no, what the officer did was within the lines of our use of force continuum. And then I'll also tell them, if you feel like you need to complain, whether it's me or anybody else, by all means, go to internal affairs and file your complaint, because I know I have a body camera on and it's capturing all the events. Now, what are some prominent cases over the years? And I'm not going to touch on a whole bunch of them. What are the prominent cases over the years that have shaped the public perception of police brutality? Now, the biggest one for me, I wasn't in law enforcement at the time. If you want to call it corrections, but you know, um, the biggest one for me that stands out when that kind of set things off, if you want to call it that, is Rodney King in California. And that I can't even remember the year that happened. I know it was in the 90s. I think I was working for the state, so anywhere between 94 and 96-ish time frame. That was the thing that kind of brought stuff to light when the recording started and people start recording what officers were doing. There's no excuse for that. None. Zero. No excuse for what happened to Mr. King. You can't tell me that whatever he was on, the video that I remember, to me, he didn't seem like he was resisting. There was a lot of police officers using their batons. So that kind of set wheels in motion. And from that, to my recollection, to what I remember, then the recordings kind of started. I think cell phones became a little bit more popular, things of that nature. More in our time frame now, George Floyd. If I remember correctly, Mr. Floyd, I think he was outside of a store, and I do believe, I don't know if he made a transaction, can't remember if the money was counterfeit or whatever the case may be. And then the officer Chauvin, he was trying to place him under arrest, this, that, and the other. Remember I tell you about the use of force continuum? What that officer did is in no use of force continuum that I've ever seen. The knee to the neck for the amount of time that he held his knee on his neck. Then not only that, he had his hands in his pocket. So there's no excuse for that. And the officer was convicted and he is serving a prison term. After watching CNN, I think it's, I don't know, a couple of days ago or something like that. They said our president was thinking about pardoning him and this, that, and the other, which I don't agree with. So that's George Floyd. Now, the next one I'm going to bring up, because like I said, this particular podcast, some of the things I'm going to mention, and I'll kind of make mention of it when I come to it. A lot of people were asking me about certain things, and race is one of the things that came up. So that I'm kind of prefacing that to the case I'm about to bring up now. So in Memphis, I think that happened about, I don't know, a couple years ago, because the guys have already gone to trial. I think they were convicted in federal court, and then I think they were acquitted at the state level. Now, so Black officers, Black suspect, from a law enforcement standpoint, the suspect. How are we viewing that? Are we viewing that the same as police brutality, or are we giving these guys a pass? And what I mean by that is, are we in the Black community, are we giving these brothers a pass because they're Black? Or are we not getting them passed because they're police officers? For me, regardless of skin tone, skin color, skin complexion, what they did was wrong. I don't know the full details of it. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the guys was supposedly seeing the young lady that this gentleman was seeing. So that's one thing I heard on the news. So if that's incorrect, blame the news. So do we give officers of color a pass? Or do we hold them to the same standards as if it was a white officer that would have done what these Black officers did? So that's something to think about. Do we do that, or are we going to hold them accountable? For me, from a law enforcement perspective, that is a black eye on police in general and whole. I don't care who the officer is. Brutality is brutality. Murder is murder. And so I wanted to throw that one in on purpose, just to see what you think about it. Now, here are some questions from some followers of mine that they had, that they wanted me to address or bring up at least, um, dealing with the police brutality. One thing somebody asked was, as officers, do we go through psychological exams before we're hired? Answer is yes. Yes, we do. Um, when I first hired on with Dallas, I took two written tests back to back, and I think each were over 500 questions. So I had to take that particular psych test, and with them, I can't remember if I talked to a psychologist or not, for like a clinical review or something like that. I can't remember if I talked to a psychologist on that or not. When I started work for Baylor, same thing. I took a test. I think it was two parts, and each were over several hundred questions. And then after that one, I did speak to a psychologist. I did an interview, spoke with him. He asked me certain questions. I answered the questions, and he determined if I was so-called fit for duty or was fit for the job that I was about to apply for. That I was applying for with Baylor Police Department. Um, so yes, police officers do go through psych tests before hire. And another question posed was, what are they looking for? What are the psychologists looking for, or what are they looking for in these tests that we take? Best I can answer that is emotional stability. That's one thing that they're looking for. Um, the psychologist that I interviewed with, I'm sorry, when I was applying with Baylor PD, he had some personal questions. He see how I responded. I think he asked about colleges I went to, stuff like that, and so he just wanted to see how I respond. He wanted to see how I responded. He wanted to see how I reacted to certain things in my life. Did I go off? Did I do this? How, just how I reacted. And so in certain situations, um, basically that's impulse control. So he wanted to see if I was an impulsive person, if I was just going to fly off the handle, things of that nature. Um, and then also decision making under pressure. So some of those questions that he was asking me were about decisions, things of that nature. And then also stress tolerance. He asked questions, when I was in school, when I was working, things of that nature. He asked about the stress and, stress of the job. How did I respond to certain things, as far as when I did work in Dallas, when I was put in a stressful situation. Did I almost have to shoot someone or use a force or anything like that? So how I would react in stressful situations. And then the potential aggression bias is another thing that they look for. Um, Potential for aggression. So, if someone, you're talking to them and then something that a normal person or that just wouldn't fly off the handle, that somebody just, you're thinking, okay, they just go off. And then that may raise a red flag for the person that's interviewing someone. Another question I received from my followers, we as officers receive routine psych exams after we're hired? Short answer to that is no, we don't. At least in not the departments that I've worked at. It's not a standard practice to conduct yearly or quarterly type psych exams. Now, what I know they will do is they'll do like a fit duty type evaluation, but that's only when something is triggered. And what I mean by that is a use of force incident, a traumatic event, a shooting, a death in custody, um, signs of psychological distress or misconduct. And so in situations like that, they will do like a fit for duty, see if that incident, affected you in any kind of way. Did it make you change the way that you think? Did it change your thought process on how you handle things after seeing that? Um, the best way I can explain it, which I did not go through a fit for duty, was when I first went to homicide. Um, when I first went to homicide, now I've seen one or two dead bodies when I was in patrol. But when I was in homicide, it was pretty much like a daily thing. and I tell anybody this, after I was in homicide, what happened was, or what happened to me, I can't speak for, my colleagues that I worked in homicide with. Uh, when I was off, and I may go out with my family, or if I'm just by myself or whatever, I'm at the, we're at the mall or whatever's we're doing. What would happen to me was I would have flashbacks. I don't want to call them flashbacks, but the brain is like a computer. So I would see the scenes that I had been at, and it would just come to my mind, and I would see the body, I would see the crime scene, I would see the person that I interviewed, or whatever the case may be. I would see that. Mostly it was the body that I would see, because I was not used to seeing that daily. And then certain things, the way the body was, the way the homicide was done, sometimes you see stuff that is not normal or natural, and so the brain just recall that at the most unopportune times, is the best way I can say it. Now, another thing that some fathers wanted to know was, why do police come off as aggressive? And this is still dealing with the police brutality, because um, it's happened to me, when I come on scenes and this, that, and the other, depending on what's going on, I'll get, why are you so aggressive? Why are you talking to me like that? And this, that, and the other. And so people want to know that. And so, that was a question. Why do police officers come off so aggressive in certain situations? I'm not saying all the time, but in certain situations, or maybe you haven't seen that officer, maybe, because you've never seen them before and the officer's never seen you. Of course, they're going to be cautious, is the best way I can put it. But officers may seem aggressive for several reasons, many of which stem from the training that we get, basically from the training what we get and the environment that we work in. Basically, our training focuses on control and compliance. When we get to a scene, we have to have that command presence. And when I went through the academy with Dallas, the command presence consisted of, first of all, your presence, how you looked in your uniform, how you presented yourself. And because, believe it or not, people are sizing you up. And some of those people that sizing you up could be someone that's trying to do harm to you. So you have to show that command presence. You have to be the one in control at that incident, meaning if it's a family violence call, if it's an aggravated assault call, whatever kind of call it's on, we're going to have to show that command presence. We also have to make quick decision making, using force to control situations. We are taught to take charge quickly. And the reason we're taught that is to be avoided from being overpowered or ambushed. And I'm not going to say that's going to happen all the time, meaning that we will never be overpowered or that we will never be ambushed, because it can happen. But the first thing I want to say about why do some officers come off as aggressive is because of our training. So I get my uniform thing from the military. I like to look good in my uniform. I like to present myself well, and I know that these suspects, or whatever you want to call them, they're sizing us up. And back to the aggressive side, and taking control of the call. Like if when you go in someone's house, or you're in the yard, or wherever the call takes you, and you have either 2 or 5 people at a location, sometimes more, and not everybody responds to yes ma'am, no ma'am. Sometimes you have to go in there and take control and say, hey, who called the police? And just a side note and a footnote, if you call the police um, at your home, or just wherever you are, if you call the police at your home, in your car, wherever you are, and there's a disturbance or whatever the case may be, when you call the police, that lets us know whatever's going on at your house, in your life at that time, you can no longer control it. You can no longer take care of that particular situation. So you call the police to fix that issue for you, whether it's a family violence deal, husband and wife, significant other, whatever you want to call it. If you call us, that lets me know that whatever's going on there, you can't handle the situation. So the time that an officer is there, we are in control of that situation. We're in control of the movement because I've never been in your house before. I don't know who's in the back. I may ask you, hey, is there anybody else in this house? Is anybody else going to come from one of those rooms, out of that bathroom or whatever? You need to let me know now. Because as we're talking for like 5 or 6 minutes and I hear something, somebody comes out, okay, that's going to be a quick issue. So we have to take the command presence and it's going to seem aggressive. Um, and so that's one reason. And another reason that officers may come off aggressive is because it's the warrior versus the guardian mentality. Um, Many departments still train officers with the warrior mindset. I know when I went through, that was one of the things you had to have, like this warrior mindset. Not that you're going to go out there and hurt someone, but the thing is, go home at the end of the night. and and normally, this is what I do as an officer. If I go into someone's house, and I've had to do this before on multiple times, and and I have to tell them, hey, look, you called me for a reason, so I need to find out what's going on. If I see that there's no criminal offense, then I'm going to be out of you guys' hair. But for right now, I'm in control of the situation because whatever's going on, you cannot handle it, or you couldn't resolve the issue. So you called us for a reason. Um, and then also perceived threats. That's kind of what I was talking about when somebody may be coming out of a room that I just asked you, hey, is there anybody else here? And you said no, and then all of a sudden somebody has come back there. I don't know if that person has a gun. I don't know if they have a knife. I don't know. And then that's gonna, I don't want to say startle, but it's gonna get my attention. And and my first instinct is like, hey, oh, stop, where are you going? And then find out what that person is doing. Um, we are trained to be hyper vigilant because of a situation it can escalate quickly. The constant readiness for danger can make their behavior seem overly aggressive or even low. Um, Now, another thing that can happen is stress and burnout that can cause aggression. And the stress can come from home, meaning, let's just say an officer is going through a divorce. He's stressing out there. He's burned out at the job. So that can come from anywhere. Now, is it right for them to bring that to the job? No, it's not. But we're human. That's just like anybody else that deals with stress or burnout, whether it's at home, whether it's you having husband wife issues, significant other issues, problems with your kids, things of that nature, and that can create a problem because now I'm just going to use a husband and wife type thing, and I'm going to pick on the husband. So let's just say the husband and wife are going through a divorce, or they're having some serious issues and possibly going through a divorce. And let's just say he gets to work and all the aggression that's built up, that he may want to harm his wife or touch his wife or slap his wife or hit his wife. When he encounters someone, that aggression can go to the suspect or the person that he's dealing with, trying to arrest, trying to do this. So all of that stress that he's dealing with from a total different issue, that person can take it out on the wrong person. And now he has stress at home, and now he's going to have stress at the job because now he's in a use of force situation where he exceeded the force needed to correct something. And now it's in a police brutality situation where he's either going to get terminated or he's going to get sent to prison, or both. 9 times out of 10, both. So that's where aggression can come from as well. So the burnout, that's also from the job. Of course, maybe you hadn't did that me time. As far as taking off, or you just going, you work and you work and you work and you just get burnt out. Now, I'm not saying this is right. I'm just telling you some things uh, that could cause this, and there are a number of things. Now, what is the public perception or miscommunication? Aggression may come from poor communication, misunderstanding between the police and civilian. What it feels like to be assertive or urgent to the officer may feel like aggression or hostility to a civilian. That just goes back to the way that we were trained. So assertiveness or urgency, there may be something that, we need to get right down to it. And yeah, I may be coming off aggressive, but as you're explaining something or whatever, you're going down a rabbit hole. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole. Uh, I forget what show it is. I'm about to tell my age, but it says just the facts, man, just the facts. Yeah, you're trying to get everything in there, but give me what's going on here. Um, and so that can show some type of aggression toward people, and it's not intended, because we do this every day, and it's like it can come off that way. So don't get me wrong. I definitely understand what's being said and what's being asked of me. It can come off wrong, and I have, after a call or when I'm leaving, I'll let them know, hey, look, don't take that personal or things of that nature. And then we may laugh and joke, and then may develop a friend. You may develop someone that's now willing to talk to you if something goes on in their neighborhood. And so, there's ways to mend that if you know how to do it. So, basically, what I do is actually I was dealing with this on a call, and it was nothing major, but basically it was a civil issue. Husband and wife going through a divorce. Um, Wife's coming home to get things out of the house, which were hers. Tried to tell the husband, hey, look, she has the right to be here. I cannot stop her from coming in her house. And so he was getting upset, and this, that, and the other. And I said, sir, I haven't told you anything I haven't told your wife. The difference is she was here and you were on the way home, and I'm just now telling you. Fast forward, the guy called me the other day, and we were talking, and I basically kind of gave him the same information, and some things I couldn't answer because it needed to be answered by an attorney. I said, well, you need to consult your attorney on that because I can't give you that type of legal advice. I'm not an attorney. And then during the course of the conversation, we were to hang up. And this is what he said. He said, man, I just want to make sure we good, meaning me and him. And I said, no, man. I said, we are good. We're straight. I have no issue. It's just, I said, I wasn't taking your wife's side, and I'm not taking your side. I said, what y'all are going through has to be handled through the judge. So yes, he thought I was coming off aggressive because at the scene he said, man, I don't know why you for the woman, this, that, and the other. I said, sir, I've already told her what I'm getting ready to tell you. It's not that I'm for her. I'm just telling you what I told her while she's here as well, so she can confirm it. So he was a little upset with me that day. But like I said, I got a call back, and he was just saying, man, I just want to make sure that we good. And I told him, yes, we're good. I said, I have no problem. I said, I just want the best for both of you guys. I said, I don't want to come back out to you guys' house or anything like that. And so there's ways to get that straight if you come off aggressive. And trust me, the officer's gonna, at least I do. I know when I come off aggressive. And if I have an opportunity to mend that or let them know, hey, this is why I did what I did, or why I said what I said. And once I give them the explanation, I said, and I let them know, I said, look, I had to take control of the situation. Like, you're yelling, he's yelling, and the police are here. So I have to be the one to control the situation. So once you give them some type of explanation, and you don't have to, that's just me. That's why I build rapport with people. And sometimes people they'll tell me go kick rocks, and in a better lack of words, they use some 3 and 4 letter words to get off their property. And that's fine, that's fine. Because one or two things are going to happen. I'm probably going to be back at that place again on a call, basically. So that was another question posed to me. Why do police officers come off aggressive? So that was the best I could come up with. Hopefully it helps. And then another thing is the lack of accountability and oversight. In instances where misconduct is effectively punished, or some people just feel emboldened to, I don't know why they would do that, but to use excessive force on someone, something like that. But it just another quick footnote. just on why officers are appear that we come off aggressive. Number one, we have to take control of the scene. We cannot let the people that call the police dictate what we're going to do. We have to get there to de-escalate the situation and get everybody calm, and then that way find out, okay, what happened. And the way, like, let's just say it's a family violence call, husband and wife. Basically, the way that I handle that with a partner as well is like, hey, you talk to him, I'll talk to her, or I'll, vice versa. And then once we both finish talking to both of them, away from each other, of course, but I'm in eyesight of that officer, we're going to come back together. Hey, what is he saying? What is she saying? And if they kind of jive or kind of meshes or it makes sense, and if they say, hey, no one hit each other, then we don't have a criminal offense. But my point is, we have to take control of that situation, because whether you believe it or not, there's always guns in play. The homeowners, let's just say the homeowners don't have guns, but guns are always in play. What do you mean, Parker? My gun and my partner's gun. So if husband gets mad, wife gets mad, this, that, and the other, decide to jump us and hopefully not get one of our weapons. So there's always a gun in play, the officer's weapon. So that's why we have to get there, take control of the situation, try to de-escalate it, everybody calm down so we can find out what the heck is going on. Because if you've ever been in an argument, it's kind of hard to listen to 2 or 3 people yelling and trying to tell their side of the story at the same time. It's just virtually impossible. Now, here's one that I ain't gonna say it's a hard question. It's not, but how can I say it? It's a sensitive issue, is the best way I can put it. And this question was posed to me by one of my followers that got me to do this episode. Why are blacks being targeted? Why are blacks being targeted in this police brutality aspect of what's going on in today's time? And to be honest with you, it's a complex issue. It really is. I'm gonna try to answer it. I'm not gonna dance around it, but I'm gonna try to answer it the best way I can. And I'm going to give you both sides of the coin. First and foremost, it's rooted in a combination of historical, structural, and systematic factors. And you have historical racism. Policing in the U.S. has origins in slave patrols and post-Civil War, enforcement of black codes, things of that nature. The legacy will shape policing practices and biases over time. Now, historical racism. Now, does racism exist? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It still does. That is so prevalent in today's time as far as racism and this, that, and the other. And oh, you're just playing a race card. That gets thrown out there a lot. So it's rooted in the historical racism of the United States. Now, is every police officer racist? No. Is every white officer racist? No. Is every black officer or Hispanic officer racist? No. Are there racist people in the police department? Yes, there are. Quick point. When I first got hired on with Dallas, I was still in training. And I was with a trainer. And he said, hey, let's go to the station right quick. I think I had to do a report or something like that. And I hadn't been on training long, so it's not like I had a voice to say something to another officer of higher ranking than me or that's been on longer than I have. So we were in the little break room or wherever, and I'll never forget, I was at Southwest Substation. So his friend was in there. So I go in. I'm a rookie. So as a rookie, I'm speaking to everybody. So we go in there. He's speaking to his friend. I speak, hey, how you doing? And he gave me this look. And if looks could kill, man, I mean, he didn't even speak. He just looked me up and down. I was like, I don't know this guy. And I don't know why he would do that. So I was like, I brushed it off. It wasn't a big deal to me. Man, don't pay my bills, and I don't sleep with that man. Um, so as they got to talking, I'm listening, and so he apparently got passed up on a promotion, and he had mentioned something about damn affirmative action. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's why you gave me that look. So does racism exist? Yes, it does. It's always going to exist. You'll be a fool to think that it's going to stop. It's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. It'll stop when we die. That's when it'll stop. Um, so the question is, why are blacks being targeted? And there's an implicit bias or stereotype. Many officers consciously or unconsciously hold bias against black people with criminality or danger. Um, I'm trying to put this. When in the streets of patrol, or even when I was in a gang unit, most of the neighborhoods I was patrolling were predominantly black. I was in the Oak Cliff area. I'm off of 75 in Chaucer, Camp Wisdom area, off of Polk and Wheatland, Keystone Polk. Most of the people that I run across in that area are going to be the black or Hispanic. It's going to be a few whites in there, but that was the geographic area that I was working. And when I see suspicious behavior, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a black person just because of where I'm working. So I'm not targeting that person. It's just a demographic area that I'm working is predominantly black. Now, another footnote, let's not commit crimes. Let's not commit crimes. That's not going to stop, because the saying was, when I was on department, police department is the best place to stay employed if you don't get yourself fired, because there's always going to be work. Now, and the next one that I was going to bring up, I just talked about it, and the question was, remember, one of my followers asked me, why are blacks targeted in this police brutality stuff, or why we're always the victims of shootings and black men getting killed? It's over policing. I don't even want to call it over policing the black communities. Like I said, it's just the demographic of where you work, and you can go through any sector of Dallas, and you're going to have a different demographic of people. And it's faced increased police presence in when we trust me, I've been in the gang unit, and it's like, yes, we did saturate certain areas of the city. Well, guess what? That's where the gangs were. That's where the crime was. But we got it both ends of the handle. The suspects didn't really like us because we were saturating the area. But the civilians that lived in that area, they would privately say, hey, I'm glad you guys are here. They're scared to come out of their homes. And when they see us, they may not say anything right then because of they're scared if they don't want these other people seeing them talking to the police, because they may think that they're telling us some information that may get them in trouble. We may get a call, they may see us, or they may actually come up to us or whatever and say, hey, I'm glad you guys are here. And also, as far as why blacks are being targeted, sometimes it can be the lack of accountability. Let's just say, and what I mean by that is officers that are guilty of certain things, misconduct, things of that nature, it's not being corrected. It's not being corrected. And they continue to do whatever it is that they're doing. You have institutional and systematic racism, the poverty, the housing, and that goes right back to some of the areas that I was patrolling and working in. Also in police training and culture. Many departments emphasize controlling compliance um, over de-escalation. And control compliance basically is, hey, just like I said a few minutes ago, you control that situation and they're going to comply with what you're saying, or if you have to use some type of force, things of that nature. Some prefer that over de-escalation. De-escalation is basically when you go into a situation, and de-escalation, that's the first thing you want to do. Basically, de-escalation is you go in there and you try to get everybody to calm down. Because if I come in there with the same energy, then it may or may not turn out that way. Now, if I and I have actually done this before. I have walked into a situation where husband, wife, or whoever it is, they're just totally yelling at each other. I'll just walk into the house, knock on the door, and actually, sometimes they don't even hear me knock, but the door's open. I've been called here because you can't handle something, so I've been called here. So I knock on the door, police, walk in. They're still They're still going at it. I've just stood there for several minutes. Then they finally turn around and see me. Oh, hey, officer. We didn't know you were here. We called, but we didn't know you had made it. Yeah, I'm here. Is everything okay? Yeah, everything's good. Well, can we talk? And I asked him, hey, what happened? So the de-escalation is also part of training. And you can't have that us versus them mentality, because now it's like the police against the bad guys. Like when we were kids, you pay cops and robbers or whatever. And so you can't have that mentality. Now, when it's time to go get somebody, it's time to go get somebody that's broken the law. So it's not us against them. Maybe you should look at it right versus wrong is what it is. So with this episode, like it was a follower generated. So I wanted to put that out there. Hopefully, I answered some questions. I don't think I dodged anything like that. But that this is a big issue. It's very sensitive issue. And the last part, or the last question that I was asked to address, was why are blacks being targeted? Honestly, I know it looks that way, and for whatever reason, like I said, the use of force continuum is the guideline for police officers. I can't say what other departments use. I don't know if all departments have use of force continuums. I just know what I'm used to as a police officer, what I was under when I worked for the city of Dallas Police Department, what I was under when I worked for Baylor Police Department, what I'm under now working for Red Oak Police Department. And what we also have to realize is that every individual is different as far as on this targeting people and things of that nature. And if you want to know the truth, I've been accused of being a racist against another black person. It's like, really? Man, I think I told the guy, maybe you need to quit committing crimes and you won't see me anymore. So it's a touchy topic. So in saying that, I'm gonna say cover two more things, and I'm gonna end this particular podcast. The first thing I'm gonna cover, I want to call a suspect, or this I'm gonna say suspect or target or complainant. The best thing I can say is, if you are in the presence of an officer and you think force is going to be used against you, or the threat of force you think is coming, or if they put you in a wrist lock or whatever, best thing to do is comply. If an officer, hey, do A, don't do B. Go ahead and do A. If you say, hey, turn around, put your hands behind your back, go ahead, turn around, put your hands behind your back. You know you had that warrant. You know you just did A, B, C, and D. It's time. It's time to pay the piper. And when I worked in the gang unit, what I would just tell those young cats, hey, chalk it up to the game, man. You knew you did this. And so when an officer tells you, hey, drop the gun, drop the knife, don't run, let's not do that. Comply with the officer's commands. And so comply with the commands. And remember what I told you, I forgot which episode it was. If you feel like that officer has done you wrong or done something to you, whether it's use of force or whatever the case may be, that's not the time to fight it. You comply with what the officer says. And then if you go to jail, if you don't go to jail, go down to the local department, ask to go to internal affairs, and file a formal complaint. In the street is not the place to handle that. That's not the place. Now that's on suspect side or however you want to deal with that. Now on the officer side, officers, if you are handcuffing someone or you ask someone to do something and they comply, then there's no other force needed. And if you have to administer force of some kind, whether it's a wrist lock or you have to take them down to the ground, this, that, and the other, once they start complying, the force should stop. And then if you're able to handcuff, handcuff. I'm not telling you not to do that. Even if you get them down the ground and they're still fighting, and you have to go to another, level of force. You may have to go to an ASP. You may have to go to mace. You may have to go to a taser. But let's remember, officers, once they comply, the use of force stops. Deadly force situation. We all know how to deal with those. And if it, let's hope we don't have to get in them. But, in our job, we may end up in a deadly force situation. And when the threat stops, we stop. It's that simple. So it's not just officers out looking for someone. Hey, let me go find this black person. I'm going to do A, B, C, and D. Let me go find this white person. Let me do A, B, C, and D. It doesn't work like that. It's a twofold thing. If you're given a command, follow the command. On the officer side, if they comply with the command, the force should stop. And if we lived in a perfect world, then there wouldn't be any police brutality. But guess what? Officers we're just employees, just like everybody else. You have good employees, you have bad employees. You have some that do an excellent job. You have some that just do the bare minimum just to get by. So just in my personal opinion, I don't think there's a target per se. I don't think no one's out seeking out black people or seeking out white people or seeking out Hispanic people. Let me put a footnote right there. Now, the federal government right now, that might be a different story as far as seeking out a particular race of people. That might be another episode. But that I know of, that in my 25-year career of law enforcement, I've never heard any officer say, hey, man, let's go find this black dude and beat the hell out of him. Let's go find this white guy and do A, B, C, and D, and then just leave him somewhere. I've never heard that. Number one, that's not me. I'm not that type of person. And officers that I hung around with didn't do that. Now, have I gotten use of force situations where people did not comply? Yes, I have. But eventually they complied. Once they complied, the force stopped. So I think it's a two-sided coin issue, just like I said, and then I'm going to end this thing. If you're on this side over here and you're facing the officer and you are going to jail or whatever the case may be, if he gives you a command, if he tells you under arrest, if he tells you turn around, put your hands behind your back, just do it and deal with your legal issues. Officers, if you're giving that person the commands and they comply, there's no need to do anything else if they are complying, meaning there's no need to do something to the wrist or just whatever the case may be, or inflict some type of, uncomfortable pain right there, whatever it is that you're doing, or pressure point or whatever the case may be, wrist lock that's unnecessary. If they comply, it ends right there. So if both things were meshed together, then we probably wouldn't have that problem. Are we going to have issues where officers getting shootings and things of that nature, and it may not look good to a civilian? If it pops up on the television or this, that, and the other, sure. But as long as that officer was within the force continuum, uh, in respect to his or her department's use of force continuum, then you're going to be known that, hey, it was a good situation, it was a good shoot, it was a good use of force, there was no excessive force. Because believe me, as officers, we get, you have to go through certain things to get cleared from different things. So I think I'm gonna stop right there on this particular one, on police brutality. I'm getting my other one ready. Hopefully, I can get that out next week. The next one's going to be dealing with gangs. I'm going to focus when I was in the gang unit and get some information out there to people regarding gangs. I'm going to touch on some of the gangs that I dealt with in the city of Dallas and some of the operations I've done with ICE. I call them alphabet soup. Big thing we did when I first got over to the gang unit. So I'm gonna dive into that on the next episode. Hopefully that'll be something that you guys like. If you're seeing this episode on YouTube, because most of the time when I post them out there, it'll be my YouTube video. I would appreciate it if you would hit the like button, share button, and then the follow button and subscribe, and catch my videos when they come out. And go to my Facebook page, which is Parks Place Podcast, and follow me there because I'll be putting content out there. If you want me to talk on a certain subject, hey, hit me up, send me a message, holler at a friend, family member, whatever. And if you want me to touch on a particular subject, hey, I'm open to do that. Like I said, the next episode will be dealing with gangs, and then I have June. In June, I have my special episode coming out with 4. I can't tell you what it is, but anyway, I got that. It almost slipped. But anyway, I got a special one coming out in June. I'm not going to say what it is. I think I did kind of put something out there. But anyway, you guys may know. But thank you for watching. Like I said, if you see the video, like, share, and subscribe. And hit my Facebook page and follow there. I'm on Instagram. I'm still trying to get some kinks out on some other sites. But please do that for me. And if it's on YouTube, hey, hit some comments. If you see something, if you're on the YouTube, and you should be able to comment there, or if on my Facebook page, or send me a message if you got my personal one, and then just say, hey, Parker, can you talk about this? Can you put this out there? I'll look at it and I'll get to working on it. I just want to thank you guys for watching. Like I said, look out for the next one. I think you'll like the next one as well. It's going to be about gangs when I worked in the gang unit. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon, and we'll see you.